map with a little bit of macro sprinkled in, I would argue. But a lot of the team fight happens down in the bottom lane, 4v4, while the solo laners are doing their thing. Let me go over to the gameplay here as we start things off. I apologize here and press play. On the side of BeefBois, on the red side of the screen, we have Dirk on the Ana. We have Tribulation on the Diablo. We have Dazed on the Zul, and we have Root Beer Guy on the Zeratul. And then on the Hanzo, we have Smork Killer. On the side of Wholesome Halfwits, your blue team, we have Key on the Anduin. We have Skafar on the Leoric. We have G Money Drums on the Chromie. We have Darker Black on the Reyna. And coming in last, it's Tanksta on the Joanna. So I would say Wholesome Halfwits going for a pretty normal team comp, I would argue. You know, you got your double soak offlaner in Leoric. You got your kind of standard tank, although she's kind of falling out the meta now in Joanna. Anduin, who I think is the plainest healer in the game, but he has the pull on his D trait, which is really useful, obviously, as a cleanse and a save. But other than that, his healing is kind of single target with a little bit of AoE and generic. And then of course we have Reyna, who's kind of like your meat and potatoes auto attacker that you just throw into any team comp, and he went Exterminator actually as well, as we see at the bottom here in this talent, which increases his damage to non-hero targets and non-structured targets. And so that's really standard. You see that a lot these days. Just giving you some macro presence in the 4-man, being able to burn camps real quickly, and actually pretty good wave clear as well. On the side of BeefBois, we have a bit more of an untraditional comp. We obviously have Dibbles, who's become much more meta right now. Or I should say Diablo. And we also have Hanzo, who I think I know a lot of DPS have always been in love with, and even more so. As we see it actually early camp invade by Wholesome Halfwits here as they try to move in on the bottom camp. But we have Zul being able to drop in, making this a 5v4. Actually, sorry, it's a 5v5. Everyone in the game is at this team fight. Fighting over the point. It looks like the health bars of BeefBois are just going to fall too low this early into the game, and the camp invade is actually successful. As I was saying though, I think getting to the untraditional part, as we see an actual gank in mid here, over with Leoric taking down Zul, off to quite an early lead. They already have towers and wall down on the side of Wholesome Halfwits, which is quite a feat only 2 minutes into the game, and they've actually taken half of the bottom fort's health. So that's a massive lead early. And they're really taking advantage of the untraditional part of BeefBois comp, which is the Zeratul, which I can't say I've seen a lot of on this map, but they're looking for more of a late game, and luckily this map always goes to late game unless you're getting completely rolled over through the early and mid games. Just because of how the tower dynamics slows down the possibility of winning. You can't just win right off the bat, even if one team completely AFK'd for the first 10 minutes, you'd still probably take about 7 or 8 minutes to actually win. We have a fight going over the bottom. It's a 4v4. Once again, Zeratul's damage is kind of low, and he got kind of poked out quite early, so he's going to be forced out of the fight. As well as Diablo is only at 38 souls, so his health bar is actually quite lower than it will be later in the game. And really, BeefBois is just going to have to give this. Give up the early tower advantage, or I guess shot advantage, I should say. As we have a bit of lag here. My apologies for that, Canadian internet. We do have the double soaking come out the solo lanes. It looks like Zul right now, I wouldn't say he's ahead. Let's look at the XP here. Actually, Leo coming out with a 1k XP. That might be due to the gank that happened on Zul a bit earlier. Um, we have Wholesome Halfwits taking a camp. They're going to try and push this in, and if these sappers camp here pushes all the way in, it will take out that fort completely. So BeefBois is really going to have to stand up to this fort and maybe take a lot of damage trying to clear the camp. Although it will look like Wholesome Halfwits actually are conceding the camp somewhat. Maybe thinking about a mid-gank, but they decide against it. We have Dibbles diving in. I don't know if this is a fight BeefBois really wants to take this early into the game, considering the amount of damage that Wholesome Halfwits has. We have our second objective coming up, a solo tower bottom. Oh, and we have another camp invade coming from Wholesome Halfwits because Leork snuck down, and it is currently a 5v4 with Zool coming in. But they are awkwardly positioned here. They managed to get the camp, and actually Chromie's ult coming in huge here, slowing everything down and cutting off any weird rotations onto them. They're going to try and go down and get this tower now, but it will be a 5v5 because Zool snuck down in the meantime. Quite a lot of poke damage coming out from Wholesome Halfwits. They're able to kind of really get the health bars low before the fight even really starts. But Tankster is actually quite low, as well as Leork. So the front line on Wholesome Halfwits is getting chunked, and Leork, he's rooted and... Oh, did he pop? I think he might have popped his medallion and died there. But remember, his death time is shorter, and he's spawning right here if they're able to get a stall, but they are not. As BeefBois evens up the score, and actually gets quite a surprising teamfight win there, considering their late game build, or their late game team composition, I should say. Zool and Leork going up back to the soak game. I think Zool's probably going to miss that mid soak if he doesn't get there in time, but Zeratul luckily will be there to pick it up for him. We're down to 40. We're still at 40% health on this bottom tower, but it hasn't really moved in the 4 minutes since they first did that damage. So really, it would be nice for Wholesome Halfwits if they're able to capitalize on that weakened tower, and get some real macro pressure going, and forcing the 4-man of BeefBois down bot trying to take it back. We do have a camp coming up. I don't know if BeefBois have gotten a single camp in this game, which is speaking to their kind of team composition's inability to kind of really make things happen. Although we do see a Void Prison onto 3 of the Wholesome Halfwits and a Dibbles follow-up. Reyna looking low and actually gets picked. Zeratul also low though. And Chromie kind of slowing everything down with her ult. You trade a camp for a pick. With the objective spawning soon and the XP that gave, I don't know if there's a clear advantage in that trade. We see a re-engage. Zool popping ult, hitting the front line with that. But really no lasting damage, because Anduin's going to be able to heal that up over time. We see Reyna coming back now. We'll see if the BeefBois are able to kind of force an engage before he shows up. Front line is getting chunked pretty hard here from on the side of Wholesome Halfwits. But Zeratul's kind of out of the fight at his health bar. Leo is definitely out of the fight. And Tankster falling low too. Oh, Chromie manages to get her Q onto the Zeratul and finish him off, but the kill is returned on Tankster, the Joanna. Really, I kind of like the poke advantage here that Wholesome Halfwits has. But that said, Dibbles has the ability to kind of force a fight and a pick if he sees an opportunity to do so. We see a pull coming out from Key, saving G Money Drums for the time being. And they do get the cap. Oh! Hanzo picking off the last shot of his Q there onto Reyna as he's trying to escape. Still, I would say we have a now half-level lead on the side of BeefBois through the extra kill and some of the soak that Zool's been able to do with the extra picks. But we do see a 4-shot advantage on the side of Wholesome Halfwits. Although, really with how they started this game, you would have liked them to see maybe a bit more of a lead form through this early game phase as we get into the mid game. I think BeefBois just got their first camp of the game, and it's kind of moving in onto bottom wall here. But Wholesome Halfwits actually is really good wave clear between Exterminator and Chromie, which is a really good poke to kind of prevent those sappers from hitting a lot of the time. We see an engage here. We see a Void Prison onto 3 of them with the Dibble's follow-up stun. Reina caught in the middle of that, and easy pickings for the Hanzo. As we see Chromie is falling as well too. This is kind of where BeefBois team comp kind of comes alive. I don't know if there's enough peels on the side of Wholesome Halfwits to really keep them off of the squishy backline in Reina and Chromie. And really a lack of CC. You have a little bit of a CC of Anduin, and a little bit with Joanna, but none from Leoric, you could argue. As we see Anduin falling as well to the Dibbles. Well, Anna I should say, but Dibbles setting it up. Right when objective pops, in which 2 towers are up now. And they're going to get both of them, which is going to swap their deficit into a 4-point lead going into this mid-game here. We also see the front wall on bottom kind of falling, and we see it the camp at around 80% health here. So I would say the macro advantage is kind of evened out, especially with the full level lead now built out by BeefBois. If we look quickly at the talents, although there's been a kind of constant brawl bottom, so I've kind of been distracted from reading out talents in any kind of way. We see the W build from Chromie, which is still good, even if it was nerfed. Oh, we see Dragonelle coming out from Hanzo. He is nano boosted. Tankster just staying alive with the Light Bomb. But a lot of damage coming out onto Darker Black, who falls. Tankster low. Zeratul fell on all of that mess, but Leo is really low and might get picked off here by the Hanzo. Hanzo actually does not get his Q off because he's not going Q build, so he doesn't have the extra length on it on his level 1 talent, so that didn't actually finish off Leoric. But we see a 1-for-1 trade, but the camp going out on the side of BeefBois, who are able to push this in now with the low health bars of Wholesome Halfwits. And you could see actually a lot of damage coming out into this bottom tower, which is a huge deal once one of the teams takes it. They also have a talent tier advantage over Wholesome Halfwits, 16-14. So they're really going to be able to bully this objective phase, you would think. With the 2 top towers spawning and the mid tower spawning. It looks like we're going to have a 4v4 bottom while Leo deals with Zul top. I don't know. If I'm Wholesome Halfwits, I might give this completely now, as hard as that is to swallow. But because you cannot take a wipe right now and lose bot for it. We see a Void Prison. We're going to see the Dibbles follow up now. Oh no, it was already used, but we see the Dragon Arrow follow up. And Chromie falls. There's not enough peels for her. Jo is trying to peel herself, so she can't focus on other people right now. And they finish it off, as they're almost certainly going to lose this bot tower now, with 2 dead on the side of Wholesome Halfwits. As I was saying about talents, I would say all the traditional alts you'd say on the side of Wholesome Halfwits. We actually see a pick coming out onto Reina as he tries to defend the bot tower in a 2v4, and that was unsuccessful. As BeefBois now breaks off, they're going to do camps, which is going to pressure bottom and possibly get some shots off on the core. Meanwhile, Zul's just doing his thing, double soaking. I'm not sure if he knows about this Leo up doing top camp or not. I don't think he's going to get there in time. But we still have Zeratul helping out every so often with the mid-soak, making the Soul Lane's life a lot easier, and really forcing Leo to be a lot of places at once very quickly. We see a 3-man bot now defending this tower. Chromie does have good poke onto it, but we do have a Sapper camp coming in, forcing towers. Meanwhile, we have Zeratul joining the 4-man here. He does not have Void Prison, but we have a lot of alts also up, and we also have the camp on this side of Wholesome Halfwits popping up now. Really showing a really strong macro bottom here. It's going to be really hard to turn this advantage back. We do have equal talent here, but Wholesome Halfwits is going to have to go make a decision whether they want to clear this bot camp or go up and challenge for one of these two top towers up here, which will be popping in 14 seconds. Looks like they've opted to defend the Sapper camp, hoping to get up north in time with Leo possibly stalling. But the BeefBois is going to be all on this side of the map. As Zul gets the back cap, Leo taking a lot of damage early. He does get the Entomb onto the Ana and the Light Bomb follow-up, but we don't really see the damage quite there yet. But we do see the front line able to finish her off, and now this is a 5v4 with a lot of health bars low on the side of Wholesome Halfwits though. Zeratul is forced out of the fight, and Ana is just trying to keep everyone up the best he can here as Reina goes for the cap. Although we will only be getting 3 shots off here because the bottom tower is in the favor of BeefBois. Looks like Wholesome Halfwits trying to force a fight to happen, but they really don't have the team comp for that, considering Joe doesn't really have a hard engage, and Leoric's Entomb is only coming up now. They have a bit of time with the Ana dead to take back this bot fort, but we do see mid fort is actually about half health, which is quite a significant amount considering mid is kind of a harder fort to take. And it's actually easier to take back in my opinion than bot fort, but it's still valuable damage to kind of keep pressure there and be able to kind of turn the tower advantage at any time. We see a gank trying to come up on Zul here, but he gets away as he sneaks into his own tower, and we see a complete bottom macro advantage that's going to probably reinstate itself once these camps start pushing down on bottom tower. But we do see a boss call from the Halfwits here, and you know what? I think it's a good call. Often boss gets kind of ignored on this map because it doesn't really change the macro presence of the game. It really is just the pure health of core, and so it's usually better to take towers and kind of or take forts and keeps, I should say, and really kind of force out the macro advantage. We see a missed Leoric Entomb here. We see a Void Prison coming onto 2 members of Wholesome Halfwits. The Devils follow up with his Apocalypse. Dragon Arrow missing, but Hanzo just doing a ton of damage all over the front line of Wholesome Halfwits, and the bottom tower here is almost about to fall. Leo just getting chunked with damage, as we really see this 20-19 advantage showing in the team fight. And honestly, Zeratul is turned on by this point, and I think the damage is comparable on both sides, and so the damage advantage Wholesome Halfwits had early, we're just not seeing anymore. Okay, we see bot tower taken with the Sapper camps moving in, so that's really gonna force Wholesome Halfwits to answer while their mid is still taking damage. As I was saying, the boss call may have been a good play because it changed the math and prolonged the game for Wholesome Halfwits, but really they're gonna have to do something with that prolonged time. They can't just sit back, because really this is BeefBois' game to lose, and so they can play more passive here, just kind of trade out forts and towers the rest of the way and get an easy win. So Wholesome Halfwits is going to have to, maybe they can try and get this bottom fort here back, but the mid is a tickle from falling, and so it's really just kind of trying to save the macro here, but I think they honestly need kills. And that's really the only way back into this game. As we see Zul getting the top wall down, getting some damage in. We see the camp that's going to be taken, putting pressure on. And this really is the game right here for Wholesome Halfwits. They have to make an engage here, and they have to get picks. But they are rightfully so afraid of this bush. They're going to actually try and take back mid fort here instead of fighting. Which will get them equal forts. Even if top is low, it still will be theirs after this. Presumably, actually, it's going to be close between that minion wave. As we see a 5v5 breaking up bottom here. huge Void Prison. We see 4 people Void Prisoned. Joanna, unable to peel for her team. There's an Entomb up that's silencing them, but it's kind of blocking off the team. They actually get a pick onto the Zeratul, but Joanna just taking so much damage being in the middle of all of the BeefBois for so long. It is currently a 3v5, but actually Chromie gets a very nice pick onto the Hanzo. So we have equal numbers here with Leo coming back before anyone else. But Darker Black having trouble with the Dibbles. We actually have a front line versus a back line fight here. And I'm going to give slight advantage to the front line just being able to zone in ways that I don't think Wholesome Halfwits can do. But we do have Leo coming up any second now. Just going to turn this into a 5v4. Or sorry, a 4v3. We see trading out kills between the two teams. But ultimately, because Leo is back, they're going to have to concede this. Which is not a huge deal. They have points to lose. They have 17 health, BeefBois. So 4 is really not a huge deal at this point. They're just going to have to try and keep the macro advantage they have now. Finally, they get bot for it after taking it down to 40% 2 minutes into the game. Really, they just need to maintain this macro advantage, Wholesome Halfwits, or else they're going to really not be able to get the swing in points needed to kind of end this one quickly. Because the more chances you give BeefBois to team fight, the more likely they'll just win one of those, and the game will be over at that point. Let's check the time on boss. It's 24 seconds, so it will be a factor coming up shortly. As we see a bottom Sapper camp trying to push in. But Hanzo's there. That's a lot of poke damage that they can put onto it before it pushes in. Tribulation is falling low, though. He is still max soul, so it's going to be really hard to tank him down. We see an Entomb coming out on him. But really there isn't the damage to follow it up. And a single Void Prison there. As they actually are able to chunk Dibbles rather quickly there. We do have the level 20 from Reyna, which massively improves his auto attack damage and really turns him on as a DPS hero, which he's kind of low tier DPS when he's going Extreme Reyna build. And we see that actually once level 20 hits, he becomes a real power once again. Dibbles is actually back up because he had full souls, so he only had a 4-second death timer, but he is going to be much weaker in this team fight, and the poke of Wholesome Halfwits will be quite significant onto him. We see a dive coming in, Dibbles forcing the fight. Don't see ults up on the side of BeefBois, so that's going to be tough for them to kind of burst anyone down, but Leo just getting chunked in the middle of 4 of them as Wholesome Halfwits try to get some positional advantage here. Hanzo almost out of the fight. Dragon Arrow missing. Tankster taking a lot of damage here. And Darker Black getting absolutely bursted by the Hanzo. Nano Boost Hanzo is unleashed. And Wholesome Halfwits really have to back off fully here in the 2-for-1. 2-for-none trade, I should say. Only 3 shots though. So because of the macro advantage bottom and the extra fort. But we have boss coming up as game. So this is why it was a good decision to get boss earlier, because it changed the map. But sadly, it's been so much time, the boss is back up. And really now the game is fought over this. But it is a 4v5 with some ults on the side of Wholesome Halfwits. But Zul's damage is just so heavy as they entomb or Void Prison the point, but it's really just not enough damage in the being outnumbered, resulting in BeefBois taking it. They had a very significant lead and they almost blew it. Wholesome Halfwits fought their way back into the game, but it just wasn't enough, and they couldn't win enough team fights in a row to really make the difference. As we look at the stats here for a quick second, we see a ton of damage coming out from Reyna and Chromie, but honestly, the Hanzo carry is really strong right now. 11-1 for Smork Killer, 99k damage, I mean, that's really uncontested. Um, we see this two solo laners actually pretty equal in XP, which is quite surprising that they end up this close at the end of the game. Um, Healing numbers are comparable, so really we just have the carry difference of Hanzo. With it, honestly, the better combo between the alts with the Zeratul Void Prison and the Diablo Apocalypse following it up. And Zul's ult is a ton of damage as well in a short period of time. I just think I would give the Wholesome Halfwits didn't get enough of an early lead there, considering the advantages they had early, and really didn't have the same kind of combo type alts that really were a difference maker in team fights. So I'm going to move over right now to the map score breakdown as we pull up game 2 here. Sorry, let me just quit this replay. Yeah, Division A opening up, A East I should say, is opening up quite interestingly. I think it's a fairly even spread between all teams in terms of points, as the division tries to really figure itself out right now. And I think obviously you're going to see separation over time, but in my experience, at least being in Div B East last season, it was actually quite interesting how there were about 4 teams that were like almost undefeated 3 weeks into the season, and so there was like a real like haves and have-nots in terms of wins and losses. Whereas this division seems to be opening up a bit more equal this time around, with a more even spread, I would say, between all the teams. Which is kind of what you want. It's definitely much more interesting if there's a very even division with a lot of kind of, a lot of potential for top seed being contested, for the playoff 8th seed to be contested. You really want that to be interesting and close all the way throughout the season. As we get to game 2, so I didn't have time to update it on the map breakdown, but we are going to Infernal Shrines. As we pull up the talents here, we see Tribulation on the Diablo again, Dazed on the Thrall this time, Root Beer Guy on the Mephisto, Smork Killer once again on the Hanzo, and Durkadurk this time on a Lucio. We have Scafar on the Sonya this time, Tankster with the Imperious play, not Imperious, Tyrael, my bad, different gods. G Money Drums is no longer on the Chromie, he is now, or they are now on the Greymane, and Key is on the Ana, which I know is a comfort pick for him. Kind of see posturing mid. I would say the most radical decision team comp wise is having the Tyrael main tank, which I think he provides more value. I think the changes they've made with medallions and the way the meta is going right now, I think he's a sustain speed buff kind of shields kind of tank, which is I think fits in with the meta but really doesn't have any peels, which quite scares me into a Dibbles, to be frank. But lots of damage and burst damage over on the side of Wholesome Halfwits. Less poke this time and more straight pure burst damage, which is interesting. Whereas we've kind of swapped roles and we have a lot of poke in Hanzo and Mephisto on the side of poke and sustain, I should say, on the side of BeefBois. I think the Diablo is just a huge meta advantage now to be able to force fights. And so I think that is a big difference maker. And I will have to see if Key is able to kind of keep himself up when he's getting dived on by Dibbles and Thrall. We also see the solo lane matchup. Thrall doesn't do that badly against Sonya, but he doesn't have the solo split double soak, I should say, capabilities of Sonya. But I don't know if these teams will be double soaking. Normally on this map, it's a 4-man rotate mid bot, as we've seen so far. So as I drink a sip of water, we see an early bruiser camp coming out from Wholesome Halfwits, which is kind of the ability of Greymane to just burn camps really quickly. But in return, we see bottom camp being taken by BeefBois. First objective is spawning in 15 seconds, and I'm going to give camp advantage to BeefBois because they steal this neutral camp, and we have Thrall taking top camp, although he's going to be quite late showing up to objective, and low mana, low health. So it's kind of a risky camp, but if they're able to stall this out, it over time will have the macro advantage between the two teams. Wholesome Halfwits able to fully clear out bot camp, but late getting to his objective, so they're really missing an opportunity to really have the positional advantage early, and they could have ripped maybe 10-15 monkeys off of the objective at this point. They do cap it first, and they are in position to take it first, so they're going to have an early lead here. But we do have macro pressure pushing top, but it's really too late to clear at this point. The fight over the objective has to happen now. Tyrael taking a lot of poke damage in this team fight, as we see him have to back off and clearly unable to peel, but we do have a around 10 monkey lead on this objective. So we'll see if Kael'thas's poke ability will be able to kind of carry them the rest of the way. Sonya kind of being positionally boxed out, unable to fully commit to being in the middle of things, although she really needs to be in there getting spin values for them to win this objective. We see now a tie in monkeys between the two sides. Meanwhile, top is pushing with a strong camp. Health bar is looking lower on the side of Wholesome Halfwits, but they do have a bit more sustain, as Sonya is getting quite low and falls to the Hanzo. They're now getting completely pushed off of the objective. Anna is unable to keep them up in heals, and we see Greymane following. But at the last second, they are able to get the objective. They lose a ton of XP though in kills to the side of BeefBois, and they lost a good deal of top wall and top towers to that pushing macro camp. We'll see if mid is able to get the same kind of advantage. But overall, I would still call that a win for BeefBois, just because of the level advantage that they were able to get through those kills. Yeah, I'd say it's about an equal trade structure-wise between the camp and this objective. As we see Wholesome Halfwits just getting some soak, getting in their own camp, and really trying to set up a bit more of a macro presence. Tyrael caught top. He's going to want to sneak down and be with the 4-man and trade out Sonya going up top. Camp being taken by BeefBois. Kind of real standard play. There's not really that much interesting stuff you can do on this map. At this point, you kind of just take camps when they're up and show up to objective on time. So there's not a ton of interesting things like bosses. Really, this map comes down to just winning the team fights on the objective. Because it's hard to get a lot of macro advantage out of that, other than during the objective itself. We do see bottom neutral camp coming up here. The Wholesome Halfwits is thinking about it, but the entire BeefBois team is sneaking down, all 5 of them, as they want to try and get out of the fight here. Tyrael actually doing a good job of being invasive. He's a good counter to Diablo in the sense that he himself can get himself out of sticky situations, and it's hard for Diablo to burst him down. But he doesn't have any peels until he gets level 10, in which he can put down Sank and and make his whole team immune to damage, which is a very useful anti-aggressive ult, but it doesn't come on until 10, and it's just one small little area that everyone has to stand into that could be exploited as the ultimate disappears. Sonya been able to get a bit of soak advantage during this time. Let me bring up the Not seeing XP on this screen, so I'll just pull up the stats real quickly here. Yeah, we see a 2k XP advantage for Sonya. She definitely is getting the soak advantage. She's able to double soak sometimes to get mid soak and top soak, which is kind of caught. It's still a level lead, but hasn't grown in that time, and they've actually kind of stabilized it despite 4-0 in kills being the factor in the difference. We see a great sleep coming out from Key to stop Darker Black from getting flipped into them. As we see objective popping in 30 seconds, we don't have a lot of camps available. We have the 2 bruiser camps, but by the time teams get up there and clear them, it might be time for objective to pop. So maybe we see Wholesome Halfwits change the script here a little. Be ready for objective early, and be able to burn a lot of the objective. We had top camp prep there, so my bad for not seeing that. So they didn't actually have to do that. They just had it already done, ready to cap, and they capped it as objective came up. Positional advantage towards Wholesome Halfwits here, as they really need to keep that positional advantage, as we see Mephisto's ult missing the front line, but Diablo's Apocalypse hitting hard. Tyrael sank, blocking the damage though, but Earthquake onto all of them. Greymane is quite low, he falls to Mephisto, and Sonya quite low as well. So we just see a health bar complete advantage on the side of BeefBois, as Sonya falls as well. Anna looking weak, she's gonna fall. It is currently a 3 for none, as Darker Black and Tankstar are able to get out of that situation. But the monkeys are now in the advantage fully of BeefBois, making it almost certain that BeefBois are going to get this objective. And bottom tower and wall is already down, so it's very likely this objective actually gets the first fort of the game. Completely missed the ults once again. We have Phoenix coming from Kel'Thas, sank as we expected from Tyrael for the peels and sustain of his team. Berserker, which is standard for Sonya on this map, I would say. Curse Bullet and Nano, so no surprise on the side of Wholesome Halfwits. We do see Earthquake coming out from Thrall, which is, I would argue, the lesser picked ult, but quite effective as we saw on this objective, because it kind of covers the entire objective with the monkeys, and kind of really slows down the team fight and bogs down Wholesome Halfwits. We see Mephisto going for the root ult over the damage ult. I kind of like that, really locking them down, adding some bit more CC follow-up, because kind of they're going all in on a CC comp here, I would say, with the Dibbles. We do see bottom fort falling, taking bottom keeps wall and towers, but not much more than that. So really structurally not a huge disadvantage for Wholesome Halfwits, but we do see the level advantage for BeefBois, which is concerning, and the positional advantage to get these camps here and really kind of continue the macro pressure. Looking for a sneaky gank over on Thrall, but they don't have a ton of CC to set up ganks here. As we see a bush gank coming out here. Don't know who is surprising who more, to be honest. As Tankster takes a lot of damage, as well as the Greymane. We see a whiff on the Dragon Arrow. That's one ult down. We see a 2-level advantage though, which is worrying. Considering Sank comes out, as well as Earthquake, but a lot of low health bars on the side of Wholesome Halfwits. As Sonya is gonna get picked here. Oh no, she's living. Anna with the great heals. Key doing a great job of keeping everyone up. Missed Curse Bullet. It looks like G-Money drops. Drum. Am I mixing? Yeah, G-Money drums. I keep wanting to call it G-Money drops for some reason. Falling on the Greymane there. And honestly, that's the benefit of Lucio, to be able to track anyone down and finish them off. 6T will be coming up soon. Oh, excuse me, I yawn. 16's coming up now for BeefBois, so they're going to really be able to bully here for a good amount of time with a level and a bit advantage. Oh, sorry, an almost 2-level advantage over Wholesome Halfwits. Um, Objective should be popping relatively soon. With the 16 advantage, we will see BeefBois looking at the top Bruiser camp. Not sure if they'll go for it. They do. There's not really much Wholesome Halfwits can do to kind of stop this now. So they kind of have to give this. And they might invade the Sonya top, which is worrying. As well as they've sent 4 bottom to clear. Which I don't know if this is exactly a good use of resources to send 4 bottom to clear, because we will see some heavy damage coming out onto the top wall here, and maybe even well go down, which is a huge advantage when the next objective is going to be top and they don't have their well anymore. We also see a lot of damage that's going to be put out here on top fort, with Wholesome Halfwits electing to kind of just give the top fort. Maybe give the objective, get some split push going, and get the level 16 turned on for them so that they can actually win a team fight. Although we do see top wall and towers falling, which is also very significant considering the Punisher is coming up in top lane, and that wall is very crucial in drawing the Punisher over the wall and being able to burn it while the other team burns the wall down. We do see mid falling to this camp here, which is going to be a low-key macro evening out here. But we also see that it's going to be hard for Wholesome Halfwits to get any kind of positional advantage here, as BeefBois have a kind of strong standing on the point. We're all getting chunked right now and falling, but the health bars everywhere else are falling. Key unable to self-heal that much on Anna and falls to the Mephisto damage over time. So we have no healer on the side of Wholesome Halfwits, and the health bars are quite low already. So we're probably going to have to see them back out fully here. As Tyrael is kind of the last man out, but he's Tyrael, so he's probably going to live through this situation. Meanwhile, mid has a nice push going. Was able to get mid fort, and now we have only a 1 structure advantage for BeefBois. But that might change top here, as this is a susceptible keep to the Punisher. Sonya bottom, clearing out the lanes a little bit. They're still down a level and a quarter after all of this. So 20 will be coming first to BeefBois unless there's any major change in team fight that will change the XP math a little bit. We see 4 pushing in top. There's only 3 of Wholesome Halfwits here to defend. Both of them harfing. 5 are here now, but the Punisher's already on the keep. We have Mephisto's ult coming out with a good Dragon Arrow follow-up. Tankster is out of the fight, only around 10% health, as this will be an easy keep for the side of BeefBois. We'll see if they kind of push any farther here, but the safe macro play would be to just leave. You have the level advantage. You now have a 2 structure advantage. Or I should say, not 2 structure. It's a quick... No, it is a 2 structure advantage. I apologize. I am a politics student. For a reason. Okay. Bruiser camp coming out on top here. Looking for a cheeky invade, but it's going to be taken in time. And really, BeefBois does not want an engage here. There's no clear advantage. You have a level advantage, or 2 level advantage, which is an 8% difference in damage and talent creep. But really, you don't have 20, and so I wouldn't say it's a clear advantage. As Wholesome Halfwits trying to bait out a kind of a fight here by taking the aggressive camp, but BeefBois letting them have the camp, realizing it doesn't change the map too quickly, and they're only half a level from level 20, so why not wait it out completely? Once they get that level 20, we'll see if they run at them, make a fight happen. We do have a strong wave coming in top that will be pushing in onto core, so they're going to have to clear that out now. And we also see a Bruiser camp coming up on the side of the map for Wholesome Halfwits. But now that 20 is coming online now, I would expect BeefBois to maybe run to contest that. It's not going to come up in time, but they might get some bottom damage here on keep. as they really try to goat the other team into a fight. We see a safe rotate from Wholesome Halfwits, which is the smart decision considering the positioning of Diablo. We see Mephisto's ult coming out onto Key. He's able to get away from the Apocalypse, but G-Money drops, getting caught in all of that and just falling so quickly here. As they're able to probably get bottom keep here as well, extending the lead even more. 2 keeps being down, and really mid being the only strong point for Wholesome Halfwits. We do have a top camp pushing, but I don't suspect that will get fought by the time BeefBois are able to go up and clear that. Both teams kind of positioning here, kind of Wholesome Halfwits playing a little bit with their lives, but also keeping BeefBois here and letting the macro push out a little bit top, which is not a situation to take lightly, as the top fort quickly falls and mitigates some of the macro pressure coming out in the top lane. 20 almost coming online for Wholesome Halfwits. It will be online midway through the objective, or maybe a bit just as it's getting popped by BeefBois, but we also have to wait for Greyman to come back as well. So that's what we're seeing. Wholesome Halfwits gonna have to make something happen here, because they cannot let a Punisher go onto them bot. Already halfway on the monkeys before the engage is even happening. Tyrael moving in, looking for the engage, getting some damage here onto Lucio. Thrall invading the backline of Wholesome Halfwits. Tyrael forcing the pop sank. Health bar is low on the front line there. But Root Beer Guy falling. Yes, falling to G-Money drums. But Tankster's low. Key is going to get chased down here. Possibly fall. Which would be game if these two fall as well. Sonya falls behind the fight here to the Punisher as it's popping. Key falls as well, and so I'm going to have to unfortunately call game as BeefBois takes the sweep of this series. 3 down, Punisher falling, no keep. It's all but over. And kind of a closer series than a 2-0 might suggest. I would say BeefBois had a comfortable lead the whole time, but there were times in which Wholesome Halfwits had a chance to fight back in it. But honestly, maybe their team comp was not designed to kind of engage. They needed to be there first, have Tyrael be a distraction, and really have less damage coming onto their backline. But that's a precarious situation to put yourself in. Game 2, I would definitely say BeefBois had an easier comp to execute. Even if they had a ton of damage from the side of Wholesome Halfwits in Darker Black's Kael'thas, they didn't really have anyone in this else close to that level of damage, though, as Greymane was kind of bullied out of fights by Diablo and really was not able to get the damage needed to really burn anything down. Mephisto doing good damage, Hanzo doing less damage than last game, but still good damage. And of course, Thrall is very good damage as well. And so I think the CC and ability to execute on the side of BeefBois was just a bit easier. Whereas the Tyrael put them in a kind of hard situation to succeed on the side of Wholesome Halfwits. And that's seen in the kills as well, 13-2. So this has been, I mean, an interesting series. It's early days. I know there's some Wholesome Halfwits is a relatively new team in terms of all 5 of their players playing together, because I know Key was in Division B with me last season on a different team. So they may just be learning themselves, learning their team comps a little bit, and so that may be some of the issues they're having early in the season here. And BeefBois also looking really strong. I think this is their second win, their first domination. Really strong start to the season, really. And kind of looking really strong so far. And kind of a surprise team. I know in DB Smiley's power rankings, he had them really low. because they were a new team, not really expecting much from them, but they've really shown quite strong early here, and quite an impressive showing. So this has been the first cast of Canadian Corner this season. It's a replay cast. I'll probably do a couple more replay casts. I hope this is useful to whoever's been scouting these two teams in the future. And for everyone, have a great whatever whenever you're watching this. And catch you next time on Canadian Corner.